Hi.
Hi. Computer's very slow this evening. Okay. I think we're up to Lamed Alf, right?
Yes, sir.
1 second. Let's share the screen here. Okay, Lamed Alf. To'us gedolahi bi'ado sam she'enam margishim es achdus ha'seguli she'b'Yisrael. It's a great error by those who do not feel the unity, the unique quality, unique intrinsic unity of Am Yisrael. Chavitzin dimyoinam lashvos es inyan eloki hazeh. And they want to, and he doesn't say what achdus, what unity we're referring to yet, achdus between whom and whom, but these other people who evidently are outsiders, they want in their imagination to compare this concept of divinity, or this divine concept, I should say, Hamyuchab of Israel, which is unique to the Jewish character, to all similar contents of any nation, nationality, and language of all the nations of the world. So they want to say that, okay, Jewish unity is no different than the unity of the German people, the Polish people, the French people, for that matter, uh, the the Japanese people, or wherever it is, right? It's the same type of unity. And from this comes the desire to differentiate, to separate between church and state, between the national concept or the nationalist concept and the religious concept, and make them two separate things, which most countries have. In most countries, there's the nationalist identity and there's religious identity. And they may be similar, they may be overlap, but they're not congruent. And they're certainly not unified. Shteim yachad nochlu b'zeh sheker. I'm not sure what shteim yachad means. Um, Shteim yachad?
The two things, church and state.
Yeah. I could, but nochlu is a strange term for that.
Yes.
Anyway, so I guess this way they're both false. Kikon yana machshava, all matters of thought, hargosha, sensitivity, idealius, and idealism. Shinu matzim b'amai says you find the Jewish nation. Chatifa achas, it's one undivided unit. Bakol biachad says to us that everything together gives it its unique quality, its unique form. אמנם כשם שטועים המסמצים להפריד את חלקים הבלתי משחק. You know, it's very dangerous though. I don't think Rav Kook realized when he wrote this 100 some odd years ago how dangerous what he's saying is. Because like you can have yesterday, for example, and Yom Yerushalayim, B'tzal Smotrich got up the Koisel and said, who here thinks that conquest is a dirty word? Right? And so of course, none of us think conquest is a dirty word. So, in other words, so what happens is that, and then he went on to say, obviously that you have to conquer Gaza. So, without getting into the merits or demerits of conquering Gaza, but the danger in this perspective is that if you make nationality, religion, nationalism, and religion two sides of the same coin, then everything you do, you justify by saying it's a religious obligation. any nationalist tendency you have, you can say, well, this is religion. It's not religion. It's not nationalism. We don't differentiate Judaism. Nationalism and religion go together. And it's very dangerous because then you can convince yourself of being correct about things which, if you were thought about more dispassionately and didn't think it was religious, you wouldn't come to that conclusion. That reminds us of Rabbi Sosalanter's famous statement that Kol Machlekes Yishem Shamayim Sefer Liskaim, which Rabbi Sosa said, as we know, he said, if two people are arguing and they don't think they're L'Shem Shamayim, so maybe they'll make shalom one day. But if two people are arguing, each of them thinks they're L'Shem Shamayim, the Machlekes is Sefer Liskaim, Machlekes will last forever. So that's the danger in this type of thinking, which is that if I think I was doing the Shem Shamayim and everything, my nationalism is religion, my religion is nationalism, so then I'm never going to be able to look and see anything else as having any validity or significance to it. Okay, so that's very dangerous. I don't think Rav Kook realized that danger because he thought, Rav Kook pleaded for the murder of Chaim Elazarov because he said, we don't know if actually did the murder. Nobody ever knew if Stavsky did the murder, didn't do the murder. But he said it's not possible that a Jew can murder. So he said, you have to spare his life. Right? He went to the British and said that. It's not possible for a Jew to murder. So I believe Rav Kook believed that. Right? So I think Rav Kook thought that everybody who's going to be a nationalist and religious is going to see how all these are ethereal, profoundly lofty concepts and not use them to justify all sorts of earthy and subjective agendas. Okay, I think it's enough of diatribe.
I think I once read that H.L. Mencken said, what did he say? The beginning of fascism is, what did he say? The beginning of fascism is the Constitution, is a cross wrapped in the Constitution or something like that.
It could be.
Something to those, when you mix the two, that's what you get. You get fascism.
Okay. And Mencken's not one of my favorite people, obviously, so I'm not
sure. No, he was an anti-Semitic guy, but he was insightful.
Right, but that's the point. Yes, there is a danger, right? And that's so he says, but everything, so all matters of thought, sensitivity, and idealism, which you find in the Jewish nation, it's one unit, indivisible. But all gives its unique form. But just like though they make mistakes, those who try to separate these indivisible parts, so to even more mistaken are those who think they will actually be able to separate and differentiate. The tiomes is the dual leaf at the top of the lulav, right? It's called the tiomes because it's a ta'om, it's a double leaf. So people who think they're going to try and separate these co-joined twins are making even greater mistake. And therefore they come to fight against those who hold one part of the unit of Yisroel U'Techiyaso, Afrodosam Hamabeles, and their I think on their perspective that the other one has or rather, no, because they believe inappropriately and in a way which is hevel, that the division can be affected and can be maintained and can be something which we work towards. So therefore, the Lumiyim say, you guys, religious, are wrong. And the religious say, you guys, the nationalists, are wrong. And therefore, each one comes and fights against the other side and says, the things are separate, but you chose the wrong side. So the umizeh ba shem loch, right? Going back lines, that shem loch they come with open anger for those on their division, which they think is incorrect. Please see my lave is going to, without debate, attention to how this war really has to be fought. In other words, the war has to be fought in a way which recognizes that both elements have to be unified and come together. It's possible, in fact, to separate the spiritual elements of Knesset Yisrael. So then, but the thing, it's not possible to do because of some Torah law. I'm not sure why it says is a chok Tori.
Like an exterior reason, so, not. In other words, he says, if you can't separate them because of some exterior or external factor, I think that's what he means. In other words, Batsum, you really can't separate them. But let's just say that there was we were separating them for some external factor or external reason that didn't have to do with the core idea.
Okay.
Right. So then, if the reason was external, then each side would have its own people who agreed and people who disagreed.
Right, and then obviously you'd be fighting against people who hold on to their separate part on the other side. Right. To eradicate and eliminate their perspective, their character from the heavens of the nation. But since the impossibility of separation is an absolute impediment, it's not going to happen. We're sure that the people who do separate them, people hold on to separate parts. They only make a mistake in the depictions of their imaginations, and not in the way they actually exist in their lives. A fascinating idea. He says, and this goes back to Rav Kook's idea that the people who the Zionists were really doing tshuva. He says, don't think the Zionists don't have religion in them. They imagine they're against religion, but they're not really against religion because they're part of Klal Yisrael, and since they're part of Am Yisrael, so therefore religion is an inseparable part of their identity. And don't think the religious Jews reject nationalism. They're rejecting nationalism in actuality. No, it's only their dimion. They think they're rejecting it. They can't actually reject it. It's only in their tzir dimion and not in the actions of their actual existence. Ki be'emes b'zeh ha'chelek prati came shizdo b'chayei uma b'chlala, since in whatever specific aspect they take on, since it's based in the general life of the nation. Harei u'akol kvar nimtzo. It's like when you divide, right, a molecule, every atom is still identical, right? No, that's not right. That's not the right analogy. But when you divide a substance, every smaller part of the substance still has all of the substance in it, because the substance reaches all the way to its finest particles. So here too, even if you think you've chipped off the block, one of the aspect of the other, it comes along with the other aspect. It's inseparable. It doesn't come separately. So our war has to be different, has to be to reveal to them their mistake and clarify to them that all of the efforts of their war, their fighting, to separate the lofty Jewish unity, they're not going to be successful. It doesn't work that way. You tell that to Neturei Karta, you tell that to a left-wing Zionist, right? They're both going to look at you as you're crazy, right? The Neturei Karta is going to say there's only religion, and the left-wing Zionist is going to say there's only nationalism. Okay, but I don't know if we have any left-wing Zionists left today, but were there such a thing still in existence? So the Shomer Tzayir. So the idea, Rav Kook would come to both of them and say you're both wrong, and I would say, of course, that they would come back to them and say no, you're wrong. But the idea is that you're making a mistake. Each one of you, you're just saying one side, and you think you're divorced on the other side. No, you're married to the other side. There's no separation. Um, so and the acquisition or the becoming proficient in the perfected thought and will of a Jew, so in all the depths of its natural quality. It has to be only to critique the partial perspective on all sides. To show this partial perspective in it as tamuso, all of it, the simone of its perfection, clearly also in its inclusiveness, because of all the topics of all the subjects. Even those spirit ideas that the people who are claim they possess spirit already want to get distracted from them and to uproot from their souls. It's impossible. You have to admit it. By clarifying this true matter, Yamdu Sof Kobal His Bardus, all people who are looking to separation will finally be omed will be able to realize the recognition. It's sufficient for them. They've done enough wasting their strength for naught. Instead of holding on to an imaginary part, I guess they should realize they should have to realize that in this part which they think they possess, no, all the ambitions, all the content, all the general aspects of the entire nation, and all its values, including the part which you think you've chipped off. Said they're dark and confused, blurred. And as a result, and since they are dark and blurred, they will not give your souls their spiritual satisfaction. Whereas every Jewish soul, it's like Pierre Setson writes, he says, if a Jew feels he has, I'm paraphrasing, he says, a Jew feels he has heart and digestion, it's really because he's missing his Yerushalayim. Whereas you think you have indigestion, no, it's because you're listening to Yerushalayim. You're not going to find Soba Ruchani in having one aspect or the other aspect. Mitzamtzimim es Merchav Rucham, they narrow the breadth of their spirit. And they are pulling it along in ways which are full of potholes, pitfalls. It'll be easier for them to truly recognize the truth. The truth of reality. And to seize on the entire content, which is alive and holy, Yisroel of the light of Israel, which is perfect or complete in all of its manifestations in a revealed way. Meaning, you're like Chazal saying, "Reiku mikemu reik." If it's empty, it's empty from you, not because it's actually empty. So if you don't see it, that's because you don't see it, not because it's not there. With this, they'll save the souls from all anguish and all darkness. And they will look and they will be radiant. No, that's it. They'll flow to Hashem and to His goodness. They'll no longer have to afflict their souls with shards of ideas, which are dark, and blurred. That on the one hand, they won't be able to free themselves for eternity of the other ideas. And for the other's hand, is to find in them birur, clarity, and illumination of spirit. So I guess on the one they won't be able to free themselves of the other side, and on the other hand, they won't get satisfaction in their own side. You can't free yourself of the other side, and you can't get full satisfaction without the other side. Came tchanim asher tuvam, because any content you possess, the fragment, the shard of content you possess, sher tuvam b'leshen chayim, their goodness and the moisture of their life, hanilhav v'atzum, which is a flame and which is powerful, lo yiskaleh, will not be revealed, kima hakikar arachav, unless it's on the broad square, the broad plaza, the broad loaf. I'm not sure what here means hakikar. Hakikar arachav hashalem, the broad and complete loaf or plaza or whatever. Shekol of all of Jewish life. In their essence, in the general way and in the perfected way. As in that is seen in them in all of their true strength. So, again, as we said, Rav Kook is saying that people who think that lumiyut is enough, or people who think that datiyut is enough, it's they don't even perceive. They're not even self-aware. They don't realize what they're missing. Okay. Again, as I said, it's a great idea, and I think it's true, but it's also a very dangerous idea, and that's I don't think people realize.
Yeah, yeah. I was amazed. I guess it was that guy. Maybe it was Yair Lapid. Was that the leftist guy that said we're killing babies for a hobby or something?
Yeah, Golan.
Oh, yeah, Golan. And I said to myself, most of the people that were killed were secular. Does he think because he's secular, they're not going to come kill him? I mean, what is he thinking? You know, Hitler killed them all. He didn't care. All you had to have was one grandparent. Or
No,
like two or three. I mean, you know, the Hamas is not going to say, oh, you're secular? Okay, we'll let you live. I mean, they killed the people at the music festival.
I think it was
on
I
Yom Tov. It was on Yom Tov. They weren't religious people.
I don't think he was. I think he was just trying for a soundbite. I don't think he actually.
Yeah, they all. That's all Israeli politics is. But I mean,
yeah.
What are these guys thinking?
It didn't make any sense. It wouldn't make any sense. And since you're Israeli, you can't backtrack once you misspeak. So,
yeah,
that's very non-macho. You can't do that. So
one
very
time,
non-macho. What?
My sister told me I used to take, like, from when I went there to I'd take a taxi to Yerushalayim because I can't ride the bus or the train with my stomach. It's just too hard. So my sister says, why don't you take a Nesha? It's cheaper, you know, it's the same like a taxi, but, you know. I said, all right, I'll try. So I go out of the terminal. I go over to where the Neshas are. There's like 25 people waiting there for Nesha to Yerushalayim. Everybody's just sitting around waiting, and there's two taxi drivers screaming at each other, you know, smoking, screaming at each other. Why did you say that? You know, it's not right. Yeah, back and forth, but just screaming. And everybody's just sitting around like it's like normal. And I'm like, okay, let's see what happens. So they argue. They keep arguing 5 minutes, more. Finally, the guy says, listen, just pretend I didn't say it. Just forget I ever said anything. So the other guy, he like steps back and, you know, takes a puff on his cigarette, and he says, he's like, and I'm like, oh, we're gonna get to go now. It's gonna be great. We're gonna go. And he's like contemplating, and then he says, "Lo, ata amarta ve'amarta v'zeo, ein lachzor. You can't go back. You said it. Once you said it, that's it."
That's it. Yeah.
I picked up my suitcase and I went down and I took a taxi.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't take it back over there. Everything, once you said it, that's it.
Right.
Ein lachzor.
Yeah. All right. Have a good Chodesh and a good Shavuot.
Yes, a good Chodesh.
I think next week, since Monday and Tuesday, Yontif will try and learn for Wednesday. Try to shoot for Wednesday.
Okay, very good. Have a good Yontif.
Okay, take care.
Yeah, take care.